Hello, my lovelies. This is Tangi from Tangi's Cakery, and welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be making a cake for a PS5 themed birthday party. But before we get into all that, click that subscribe button below and give that like button some love for more sweet content. Also, hit that notification bell if you'd like to be notified every time I upload. If you'd like to see some of my previous creations, follow me on Instagram and Facebook, that's at Tangi's Cakery. Alright, let's get into this, shall we? We're gonna start by making the controller and the console, which are gonna be made out of Rice Krispie treat. I melted my marshmallows in the microwave and added my Rice Krispies. I ran out of them, so I had to add a handful of crushed cornflakes. I had no idea that it would work out, but it actually did. Now, you could try to mix this up with a spoon, but the best way to do it is just to use your hands. Just make sure to keep buttering your hands to avoid sticking. Speaking of my hands, I get a few people asking me about why I don't wear gloves when I work on my cakes. Realistically, if I or any other bakers or just cooks in general had to wear gloves every time we made a dish, we would end up going through a whole box every single day. This is because as we are working, we're constantly touching other things at the same time, like our phones, our fridges, drawers, other surfaces that are contaminated. Even just dropping a glove while trying to put it on contaminates it, and I know most people wouldn't throw a brand new glove away. If we wore gloves all the time, we'd have to change them every time we touch something that is not our cake or whatever it is that we're working on. So it's a very expensive thing and it's bad for the environment. I've also noticed that the people that like to wear gloves have this false sense of security. Because they believe because they're wearing gloves, they can just touch anything and everything without ever having to wash their hands. I'm willing to bet money that most of these people wearing gloves only do it when the cameras are on and ditch the gloves when nobody's watching. A wise man once said, a chef's best tools are clean hands. So best believe that when I'm working with my hands are properly washed with soap and warm water. And so are all my utensils. Any dark stains you may see or otherwise are usually caused by the food colors we're using or the fondant itself. I have a degree in microbiology, so I have seen what's under that microscope after contamination. There is no way I'm feeding that to my clients. I am religious about washing and scrubbing my hands, so don't worry my people, with Tangi you are safe. I went off on a tangent there, but let's get back to the tutorial. So I shaped the Rice Krispies treat into rough shapes of the PlayStation 5 console and the controller, and then I carved it into the correct shape after chilling it in the fridge till they were solid enough to carve. When you carve Rice Krispies treat, always try to make whatever it is you're carving a bit thinner than what you want your final product to be. This compensates for the extra buttercream and fondant you're going to cover with at the end, which will add the extra bulk and give you that right proportion. The good thing about Rice Krispies treat is that if you take too much off while carving, you could always just use an offcut and stick it right back in place and shape and carve away as you like. I then covered them in buttercream. I only covered them with one layer, but I do recommend adding another layer of buttercream just so the final product turns out nice and smooth. Once covered, I let them chill in the freezer again for the buttercream to set up before covering with fondant.
Another thing I would recommend here is to roll out your fondant thicker so that it can give you a much smoother finish and to avoid dripping like what I got here. After covering the Rice Krispies treats, I spent some time just adding all the details of the console and the controller. To make the little shapes on the controller, I just rolled out some fondant thinly in the colors corresponding to the shapes. For the X, I just cut out the fondant into thin strips, added some edible glue to the middle and glued one piece to the other to form an X. I also cut strips for the triangle, this time arranging them in what? You guessed it, a triangle. The box shape was simply made by cutting out a fondant square with a plunger cutter and then using a slightly smaller cutter to remove the middle of the square, and there you have the box shape. I did the same thing with a circle shape, but of course I used circle cutters instead. And yes, the circle cutters are just differently sized piping tips. These took a really long time to make. They are so delicate and finicky. I definitely broke a few as I worked. I think it took me about an hour. Now on to the cake. I covered my chocolate cake with some blue fondant. This cake is iced with some chocolate ganache. I cut out a black circle out of fondant, which will be the base of my console, and then arranged it on top of the cake with a controller to my liking. After that, I cut out the PlayStation logo by just tracing it onto some baking paper, laying it on my fondant, and then tracing over it again with a fondant tool. Then I just cut it out and used some water to paste it onto the cake. Then I carefully added the controller shapes haphazardly onto the cake, and I was done. let me know what you think of this cake, and if you have any suggestions, feel free to tell me in the comments below. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!